George, so as editor of the Journal of the Historical Society, what do you usually look for in a paper that comes in? What do you want?
Well, let me put it this way. I'm not just new to the idea of writing for people who are not necessarily academics sitting in compartments, you know, medieval history, economic history, whatever. Mm-hmm. The journal, since I took it over years ago, has been almost unique in the sense that it's open to any kind of history. It's also open in other senses. For example, we, unlike some other journals, we publish papers by graduate students on occasion. For example, in an issue that just came out recently, we are publishing a paper by a graduate student about the family of Karl Marx. Very good paper. The fact that this person hasn't quite got her PhD yet doesn't have any meaning to us.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then we also, unlike some other journals, when I see a particularly exciting article in some French or German or Italian publication, either actually coming out in print or about to, or the manuscript is there and I'm aware of it, we'll ask for it and we'll translate it. Mm-hmm. And so we have a wider reach. All of this, this is, you know, goes against the grain of traditional academic practice. Mm-hmm. And so does our style. That is, we invite papers which are written in easy conversational English, no jargon. Mm-hmm. You see what I mean? We go to great lengths for that. We just will not accept a paper that you know, looks like any other article published in any other journal. It has to be elegant, eloquent, elegant, simple, direct. No putting on of airs, you know. Mm-hmm. And once we find that, then our process, of course, is the usual one. When we don't reject something out of hand because the style is terrible or because the topic is far too narrow to be appealing to our audience. Because basically, you see, the reader we have in mind is someone, say, for example, whose field is Japanese history, if he is a professional historian, right?
Yes.
But that person almost never gets around to reading anything about South Carolina crops or the history of science in the 16th century or anything else.
Right.
It's strictly Japanese history, right?
Yes.
In our journal, what we do is we make it possible for a specialist to enter the world of other specialists. And
right.
To do that, you have to have articles which are written in such a way that the Japanese historian would have no problem reading something, you know, by a specialist in Russian history or, for that matter, in Egyptian archaeology. You see what I mean?
Sure.
Right.
Do you look for a certain, or do you try with Scott Hovey to have a certain kind of prose feel too?
Definitely. Definitely. And that's very hard to explain, isn't it? I mean,
voice.
Yeah, how do you do that? That is subjective, of course.
Right.
But how shall I put it? We're not the only people in the universe who look for genuine research offered in a language that is, you know, not pinched a language. Well, let me give you an example. The kind of style that is used in the New Yorker magazine in its reportage.
Yes.
Or the kind of style that is used in the New York Review of Books.
Right.
That's the kind of style that, generally speaking, we...
What sort of maybe Europeanist or Americanist historians do you admire as writers?
Well, I think a good way to get a look at that is on our website. We publish 5 sample articles that you can download for free and which are good examples of the kind of thing we favor.
Right.
Right. But my own intellectual heritage, so to speak, goes back to the French historian Lucien Febvre, who invented modern a modern way of writing history around 1911, and he died in the 1950s. I never actually met him, but I had a very close relationship with his closest friend, Fernand Braudel, who is by now also dead. We're just speaking about dead people, I guess.
Right. Well, that's what historians do, so, you know.
Yeah, Lucien Febvre railed against historians who wrote about nitpicking tiny things. You know, he had all kinds of swear words to describe that imprint.
Yeah.
He's particularly been effective, was effective, when he created the journal Annales, which, to some extent is an inspiration for us. It was meant to start in 1913, but the war came, so it didn't start till 1929. And it's still going. It never had a very large audience, but it's been extremely influential. And it, obviously at some point, as things do, departed from the original conception of, of basically a revolutionary kind of style. Febvre took on almost any topic. For example, sounds, smells, you name it, the history of sounds, history of smells, anything like that.
Which still reverberates.
Which still, yes.
To use that metaphor. I mean, Mark Smith, our current president.
The current president that did a book on the history of sound, right?
Yes.
Right.
Are there other journals, European journals, that you look to as, in some ways, models?
Well, I don't think there is quite anything like what we do, what we have in mind. Because most of the journals that you may think of are deeply rooted in professional specializations. And for example, if you look at the pages of the American Historical Review and the first footnote of an article, you can see that the importance of publishing that article in order to achieve grandeur in the profession has been vetted again and again. And there are 300 people who've said yes, we read this, it's very good, and so on and so on. That is totally absent from our conception. We invite things that are much less policed, if you like. But we, on the other hand, unlike any other journal that I can think of, are absolutely unconcerned with the professional career of the author. And we invite articles from people who are not professional historians, but we haven't had any luck in that direction. Graduate students, yes. People who write in other languages, yes. But again, unlike, say, the American Historical Review, we don't care at all to know whether the author of this article is on his way or on her way up the ladder of academic success. We just read it as it is. For example, one of our steady contributors lives in Egypt. He's an American historian, lives in Egypt. He hasn't had an academic job for at least 25 years. But he's going strong. He's publishing very important things. The fact that he has not either wanted to or had a chance to have a professorship, that doesn't concern us, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for speaking to me about the journal.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate it.
I think it's good to do that.
Thanks.
Thanks.